terrorism. Victims of terrorism defend themselves, counter acts of terrorism, they call it out, they delegitimize it, and that is exactly what is happening. So to come here and preach these hypocritical words as though we are on the same boat.
Choosing to read only one line of the United Nations Security Council resolution, but see it in its entirety. I'm not suggesting unilateral action by Pakistan. Unilateral action is what you did on August 5th, 2019 in Kashmir. Unilateral action, violation of our bilateral agreements and international agreements.
देखिए, I said उनका कोई G20 से लेना देना नहीं है. I will also say उनका कोई श्रीनगर से भी लेना देना नहीं है. There is only one issue to discuss on Kashmir, which is when does Pakistan vacate its illegal occupation of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. That is the only issue up for discussion.
Do you want to create an environment that is conducive to talks? Do you want to implement your own stated foreign policy agenda, which is neighbors first? And if India's foreign policy's motto is neighbors first, then they have to do some sort of engagement with one of their neighbors.
Whether peace is destiny or not, I do not know. Terrorism cannot be destiny. You know, a country which does terrorism cannot talk about peace in the same breath. तो साथ माने आतंकवाद भी करें और शांति की भी बात करें, ये थोड़ी चलेगा.
Good evening, you're watching India First. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Our top focus story on the broadcast is Dr. S Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, launching a diplomatic surgical strike on Pakistan's Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari, calling him a promoter, justifier and spokesperson of Pakistan's terror industry. Dr. S Jaishankar was speaking to journalists after the Shanghai Cooperation Organization foreign ministers meet at Goa. He said Pakistan's credibility is depleting faster than Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves. This stinging attack on Pakistan, state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, came amidst reports of 5 brave soldiers of the Indian Army making the supreme sacrifice of their lives in an anti-terrorist operation in the Rajouri area, the forests of Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir early this morning. That anti-terror operation is still underway. Dr. S Jaishankar said a victim of terror and the perpetrators of terror do not sit together, in response to a question on resumption of dialogue with Pakistan. He actually hit out at Pakistan's hypocrisy and doublespeak on terror. The External Affairs Minister also hit out at the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, saying connectivity is good, but connectivity cannot be an excuse to violate the territorial integrity of a country. And this is where China-Pakistan Economic Corridor passes through Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, that is originally and actually an integral part of India. But before I get you much more on this big diplomatic surgical strike, let's first listen in to Dr. S Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister.
As a foreign minister of an SCO member state, Mr. Bhutto-Zardari was treated accordingly. As a promoter, justifier, and I'm sorry to say spokesperson of a terrorism industry, which is the mainstay of Pakistan, his positions were called out and they were countered, including at the SCO meeting itself. So let me come to the specifics. On the China-Pakistan economic corridor, this so-called corridor, I think it was made very clear, not once but twice in the SCO meeting, that connectivity is good for progress, but connectivity cannot violate the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states. So this has been our long-standing position. Nobody should have any doubt about it. And I assure you, those who are in the room today had no doubt about it. I made sure of that. Regarding आपका दूसरा जो था वो G20 के बारे में था. Now, you know, I don't think there is a G20 issue to debate with anybody. Certainly not with a country which is nothing to do with the G20. I mean, Jammu and Kashmir was, is, will always be a part of India. And the G20 meetings are held in all the Indian states and union territories, so it is completely natural that it is held there. जो आपका जो दूसरा सवाल जो था कि from what I understood that India and Pakistan should sit together. You know, victims of terrorism do not sit together with perpetrators of terrorism to discuss terrorism. Victims of terrorism defend themselves, counter acts of terrorism, they call it out, they delegitimize it, and that is exactly what is happening. So to come here and preach these hypocritical words as though we are on the same boat, I mean, they are committing acts of terrorism. And, you know, I don't want to jump the gun on what happened today, but I think we're all feeling equally outraged. So I think, I mean, let's be very, very clear on this. You know, on this matter, the terrorism matter, I mean, I would say Pakistan's credibility is depleting even faster than its forex reserves. So you know, let's be clear what this is about. On your question, you know, is this a breakthrough? Look, he came here as a member, a foreign minister of an SCO member state. That is part of multilateral diplomacy. Please do not see it as anything more than that. It was not meant as anything more than that. It was not treated as anything more than that. And I think nothing that from what he said or what I heard he said deserves for this to be treated more than that. China-Pakistan economic corridor, this so-called corridor. I think it was made very clear, not once but twice in the SCO meeting, that connectivity is good for progress, but connectivity cannot violate the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states. So this has been our long-standing position. Nobody should have any doubt about it. And I assure you, those who are in the room today had no doubt about it. I made sure of that. देखिए, I said, उनका कोई G20 से लेना देना नहीं है. I will also say, उनका कोई श्रीनगर से भी लेना देना नहीं है. There is only one issue to discuss on Kashmir, which is when does Pakistan vacate its illegal occupation of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. That is the only issue up for discussion.
Facts stated by Dr. S Jaishankar the way they are meant to be stated. Pakistan has nothing to do with Jammu and Kashmir except vacate Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Incidentally, that includes Gilgit and Baltistan. Something that should have been said every day from 15th of August 1947 is actually being said in 2023 in as many words. I want to bring in India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan for more on this. I also have Lieutenant General Sanjay Meston joining us on the broadcast. He's been a former defense attaché in Afghanistan. General Meston is also someone who keeps a hawk eye on developments in Jammu and Kashmir. There's been a terror attack in Rajouri. We'll talk to him about that. But Geeta, coming to you first, this is virtually a diplomatic surgical strike that has been launched on Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari and the country he represents.
Well, absolutely. We've not heard Dr. Jaishankar speak on Pakistan, specifically on the foreign minister, the manner in which he's spoken now. Again, Gaurav, it comes just after the statements that he made with regards to Prime Minister of India in New York. So while there was a lot of conversation about can there be forward movement, is there going to be a handshake, there was an off-camera handshake, not on camera, body language spoke for itself, but what Dr. Jaishankar did this evening, right now, clearly set the tone and tenor and where India stands, India's position on Pakistan. That talks and terror cannot go together is a thing of the past now. It's gone beyond that. India is not going to engage a country that has a foreign minister for spokesperson of terror factories and terror organizations is something that now Pakistan will have to look at and maybe introspect, but certainly very, very strong, harsh and extreme in terms of how India is viewing Pakistan, but in terms of how India looks at what is happening with Pakistan and from Pakistan is absolutely clear over here, Gaurav.
So for more on Dr. S Jaishankar's diplomatic surgical strike on Pakistan and its Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari, I'm joined by Ambassador Sharad Sabharwal, India's former High Commissioner to Pakistan. Also with me is Major General Sanjay Meston. General Sanjay Meston is an analyst. He served as India's defense attaché to Afghanistan in the past, understands the lay of the land very well along the LC and the LAC. But Ambassador Sabharwal, coming to you first, sir, I want to understand from you, what do you make of Dr. Jaishankar saying Pakistan's credibility is depleting faster than its foreign exchange reserves, and the fact that Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari, he called him out as a promoter, justifier and spokesperson of Pakistan's terror industry?
Well, it's clear that in this kind of meeting, he couldn't have raised bilateral issues openly. So he made some veiled references. For example, in terms of terror, he talks of root causes. Now, this is an old theory which has been propounded by Pakistan and some other countries to justify terror. And our position is there is no justification for acts of terror at all, period. That's the end of the matter. And I would also ask, and I used to ask my Pakistani interlocutors, would they propound the same theory in respect of acts of terror being committed by their own creations within the bounds of Pakistan? And I must say, I never got a clear reply. So that explains it. And then, he also in his speech talks of, I saw, non-state actors and so on.
Yes.
The fact is, all the tanzeems, Lashkar-e-Toiba, JEM, etc., and other tanzeems that have been acting against us, they have been patronized and supported by the Pakistan Army right through. You see how Hafiz Saeed was protected by them till the end, until the pressure from Financial Action Task Force became unbearable.
Yes.
Now, first of all, there is nothing like a non-state actors acting against us. These are state actors acting against us. The second is, even if you assume for a minute, just for the sake of argument,
Yes.
that these are non-state actors, can a state wash its hands off the activities of non-state actors from its soil against other countries?
Oh, absolutely.
When you make these kinds of points justifying terror and say, you shouldn't talk against terror to earn diplomatic points, brownie points, or whatever language you use. Now, we have been stating the reality. We have not been trying to score any brownie points there.
Yes.
If Pakistan believes its reputation is getting hurt because of what India is saying or what the world has seen, Pakistan acting as a hub of terror, then it's time to put an end to those activities.
And yet they do not. In fact, I'll come to that point in just a moment. But General Meston, while Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari was, in the sun-kissed sand of Goa, there was a terror attack about a couple of 1,000 kilometers away in Rajouri, Jammu and Kashmir. And we've lost 5 brave soldiers, including some of the special forces. Do you see a link? Is the timing very curious from Pakistan's side sponsoring this kind of terror, if it is?
Absolutely, Gaurav, good evening. whatever has been highlighted, whatever the acts of terrorism has been committed just in the last 1 week, and today was the final one. This has happened when the SCO summit was on. So it clearly reflects the first statement of Foreign Minister Mr. Jaishankar has been very aptly clear, state sponsors of terrorism, justifying, and spokesmen of terrorism. So they have actually today delivered the terrorist aspect on ground. They have shown it to the world that they are perpetrators of terrorism. And I'm very also glad that the Foreign Minister has stated very, very aptly clear that he has made in very clear terms that Kashmir is an integral part of India, will, shall, and always was. And he's also talked about CPEC,
Yes.
that it has violated the territorial integrity and sovereignty of India. And therefore, it is high time. He has reiterated that also, that they need to vacate, Pakistan needs to vacate from the POK, Gilgit-Baltistan, all our areas, and we need to get back our entire Jammu and Kashmir.
So
I think
on that aspect, let me also bring in, Ambassador Sabharwal. Very interesting that Dr. Jaishankar said the only conversation with Pakistan is on Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of our country. If G20 sessions happen there, Pakistan is no one. Pakistan is nobody to talk about it. Sir, in your appreciation, Ambassador Sabharwal, is India in a position to diplomatically or otherwise take back POJK, or is this just rhetoric, sir?
Well, let me put it this way. This is our national position. And this position remains. Now, whether diplomatically, Pakistan would just hand it over to us, I don't think it's going to happen. Let's be very clear about it. Whether we can build up sufficient pressure, etc., I would be skeptical at this stage. The fact is, the world has supported our position when it comes to Pakistan constantly questioning the territorial integrity of India. When we withdrew the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan raised a hue and cry. They tried to get support from the international community. They didn't get much traction except from a few countries. They had 3 discussions, closed-door discussions in the UN Security Council on the issue, engineered by China, but there was no outcome because other countries very clearly stated that this was a bilateral matter. So I think Pakistan has not had much traction, but this is our national position. We continue to maintain it. Whether we are in a position in the near future either to mount diplomatic pressure, and I don't think they will hand it over to us on a platter.
Oh, absolutely.
We have to take it. We have to take it militarily. And now this is for someone from the with the experience of military matters to tell us whether that is feasible or not.
Is that feasible, or would that lead to tremendous escalation, General Meston?
Yeah, but let me add just point. Now, China is deeply invested in a part of that territory, which is the so-called Gilgit-Baltistan. CPEC passes through there. That's China's entry into Pakistan. That is a route which China takes to the sea, bypassing the maritime choke points in the east. It's an extremely important route for them.
Correct.
So therefore, any attempt to take it militarily will pit us not only against Pakistan, but also against China.
And we're already pitted militarily against China in the northern areas, General Meston. So when Ambassador Jaishankar, when Foreign Minister Jaishankar talks about only conversation with Pakistan is on POJK, effectively he's closing the door, slamming the door on Pakistan's face when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar, Poonch, Rajouri. But is he effectively putting the ball in Pakistan's court and putting Pakistan on the back foot?
Yeah, absolutely. He's put Pakistan on the back foot very effectively, and his statements were very, very, I would say, extremely, very well articulated, and they need to be really honored and praised by all the citizens of this country. Now, coming on to this Jammu and Kashmir aspect, you have raised a question, is it possible militarily? I would say everything is possible. There is a time and place for everything. Now, what is the time? Time is when there is going to be resentment among the people in Gilgit-Baltistan and POK. That is the appropriate time, and I think those days are not far away when the resentment will keep this thing, and that is the time when it helps us militarily. From terrain point of view, one has served in those areas, capturing all these peaks and mountains and hills area of the south of Pir Panjal, it is quite difficult. I would say it will require years together to capture it, and it is going to be very expensive in terms of manpower, casualty, etc. But if there is resentment in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan, that is the time I think some kind of things are possible, and everything is possible. So I will not close the option. But yes, presently, seeing the situation now, the military capabilities, and when we have a hostile China, we have to view this very cautiously and accordingly consider it.
What I also want to understand from you, Ambassador Sabharwal, is Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari claiming that Pakistan too is a victim of terror and we need to sit together and talk about terror. And then, you know, he has this thing about that his own mother was killed by terrorists, though in India, and who knows that better than you, his mother was seen as someone who encouraged terrorism, not just in India, but was also known as the mother of Taliban, sir.
Listen, I mean, they have claimed this victimhood all the time. This is a card they have tried to play to take a high moral ground that they have themselves suffered. But they have suffered at the hands of which forces? I think that is the question. And that is what has been pointed out to them all along, that they are suffering at the hands of the forces that they created themselves to trouble other countries. You know, TTP comes out of all the jihadis who were prepared for the Afghan jihad, and then many of them were used against us in Kashmir.
Yes.
And Pakistan has not given up the terror card. The terror activity might have gone down, but it's been, earlier also we had similar situation. It has been a tactical move. It's like turning off the tap. You have water in the pipeline, but you can turn on the tap again.
Yes.
So until they give it up, this whole business of good terrorists and bad terrorists, when you continue to behave in that fashion, your own forces are going to, there is going to be a boomerang. And that's what we have pointed.
You know, my bigger concern at this stage, and I want both of you to respond to it, and General Meston, you go first on this. This is India's G20 presidency year. This is also our SCO presidency year. The SCO summit happens in July. The G20 summit happens in September. Do you fear that there would be an escalation of terror, not just south of Pir Panjal, but God forbid even north of Pir Panjal in the weeks ahead? There is a G20 meeting that will happen in Kashmir, and Pakistan will try and sabotage that. And can we stop that, General Meston?
Very true. I feel that they will resort to such activities because they have to. Their intent would be to undermine the vital role being played by India today as the hosting the G20 and of course the SCO. So their aim would be to belittle India and embarrass India. That would be their aim. Not to stop it, yes, it is possible. Our security forces and our intelligence agencies need to be on guard. We need to be prepared. And therefore, if we are prepared, we can prevent all these kind of things. Not only that, I would also go to the extent that China will also try to embarrass us by having small friction, creating friction points, which they have been doing in the off late in the last 2 odd years. So that also we have to be, so intelligence and our military, we need to be on top alert at least up to the end of this year so that we do not face any embarrassing situation, because the aim of China and Pakistan definitely would be to embarrass India.
And not just the end of this year, 2024 becomes an election year, is an election year, Ambassador Sabharwal, Pakistan has tried terror earlier in Pulwama. God forbid they may try something again in 2024. But diplomatically, apart from what India is doing, all that India is doing so far to checkmate China and Pakistan, is there something else we need to do to expose both China and Pakistan, Ambassador Sabharwal?
Well, I think our diplomacy has been very successful on each occasion when there was a moment of crisis with Pakistan to mobilize the international opinion. This happened, as you saw, post-Pulwama. This happened post-Balakot. This happened post-withdrawal of the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. As I said, Pakistan tried hard, didn't get much traction from the international community. I think so. We are doing all that we can do in that regard. Now, as far as the question of terrorism is concerned, logically, I would say if somebody were thinking logically in Pakistan, this is not the moment to buy any big trouble with India. They have so much of trouble of their own within their country, a polarized polity, an economy which is on the verge of a default, and they haven't still got the lifeline.
But Ambassador, wouldn't friction with India unite their country? Wouldn't it bring everyone together, the terrorists, the political parties, and the forces?
No, let me come to that. So logically, it doesn't make any sense. But somebody can have, the sort of consideration which you mentioned, or just in the past they haven't always acted logically.
Yes.
So the only point I would make is we need to be prepared for ramped up terror, while continuing, of course, to raise our voice against Pakistani terror at the international level.
I will let that be the last word on the show of this evening. Very sane advice, both from Ambassador Sabharwal and General Meston. India needs to be prepared for ramped up terror. Remember, going by Pakistan's long history, they may think of tactically brilliant but strategically disastrous plans like in Kargil and several others in the past. Ambassador Sabharwal and General Meston for joining me here on India First. Many thanks. We need to slip into a quick break here. Coming up on the other side of a quick break is Business Today with Sakshi Batra. Stay with us.
Issues and factors influencing the Karnataka elections. Amul versus Nandini controversy. Hijab versus saffron debate. Corruption allegations. And the rebel factor are all crucial issues that could sway the voters. The Lingayat and Vokaliga communities have dominated state politics for decades, and their votes will be crucial. Stay tuned to indiatoday.in/interactive for our daily coverage of the Karnataka elections every Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. only on India Today TV. Don't miss out on the #1 election team. Reporting from Ground Zero. Grounded in journalism.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the more than 20 crore employees, government or otherwise, covered under the Employee Provident Fund scheme. An opportunity to significantly increase the pension you get after retirement. Higher the salary, higher the pension. Very unlike the current payout by the EPFO, which is too negligible to be taken seriously. And you have time until 26th of June to do so. Currently, employees pay 12% of their basic salary as contribution towards the Employee Provident Fund. Employers pay an equal amount, but a part of this, 8.33% of the salary, goes to a separate account called the Employee Pension Scheme account. This amount, however, never exceeds 1,250 rupees because the maximum salary for contribution to the pension fund is capped at 15,000 rupees. A new rule now allows employees an exemption from the salary cap, allowing the pension to be fixed more practically based on the last salary drawn. Importantly, the higher outgo will not impact your take-home amount as the full pension contribution will be deducted from the employer portion. A rough calculation shows the huge benefits employees can get. For our calculation, we assume the employee's age to be 57 years, just a year away from retirement. The employee has a pensionable service of 30 years, with a 60-month average salary of 2,10,000 rupees. According to the formula, which multiplies the average salary for last 60 months with the pensionable service and divides the product by 70, the pension under the current system is just 6,857 rupees. Under the new system, it skyrockets to 90,000 rupees, an increase of 83,143 rupees. The option of higher pension can be chosen by contacting the HR department of your company or applying for the same at the EPFO website. For those still employed, the option to choose is a second one. The user then fills in personal details like UAN and Aadhaar. After submitting the form, the employer will receive confirmation of the employee's current employment status. Once the employer grants permission, the application is cleared the EPFO field office before contributions towards higher pension begin. Problems arise when the site seeks information of older employment and joint declarations with your previous employers.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the Business Today show. I'm Sakshi Batra and first up the top news we're tracking for you tonight. As gold prices increase, huge dip in demand for the yellow metal in India. World Gold Council says demand fell by a huge 17% in the January to March quarter. Claims big rise in smuggling to avoid paying duties. Markets end the week in the red. Entire week's gains wiped out by losses in HDFC Twins. Fears over another bank failing in the US spook D Street. Even as ECB hikes rates yet again. Sensex down 695 points. Nifty falls 187. Big fall in HDFC Bank and HDFC shares after research report warns of FII fund outflow after merger, both down over 5%. Investors left poorer by 86,000 crore rupees. Exclusive conversation with HDFC's Keki Mystery. Finance sector veteran expects a good revival in the property market, says interest rates could start falling by the end of the year or the beginning of the next year. CBS searches 7 locations, including offices of Jet Airways. Its founder, Naresh Goyal, in connection with the 538 crore rupees bank fraud case. His wife, Anita Goyal, is also among the accused in the case. In a big relief for India, Saudi Arabia lowers prices of light crude for Asian customers.